The bus lurched to a stop, and that's when he fell against me, his shoulder pressing into mine like he owned the space. Warm and unapologetic, his breath steady against my neck. I froze, heart slamming against my ribs, because in that split second, I swear the world narrowed to the heat of him, the faint scent of rain-damp cotton and something sharper, like fresh-cut grass after a storm. "Shit. Sorry," he muttered, but he didn't pull away, his dark eyes locking onto mine with a challenge that said he wasn't sorry at all. It was a Tuesday in late October, the kind of gray Chicago afternoon where the wind off Lake Michigan bites through your jacket and makes you question every life choice that kept you in this godforsaken city. I was Samuel Hayes, 28, wedged into the back of the 151 Clark Street bus, heading home from another soul-crushing shift at the ad agency downtown. My life was a neat stack of regrets, a stalled career sketching logos for toothpaste brands, a one-bedroom in Wicker Park that smelled like takeout and loneliness, and the ghost of my ex, Tyler, who bailed 2 years ago because small-town boy in the big city apparently meant too vanilla for Brooklyn. I wasn't out to anyone but a handful of college buddies who'd scattered like leaves in the wind. In the Midwest, you learn quick, keep your head down, your truths buried, and your heart in a lockbox. The stranger, Frank, as I'd learned later, shifted just enough to straighten up, but his arms stayed brushing mine, a deliberate graze that sent sparks up my spine. He was maybe 30, built like he played pickup basketball on weekends, with tousled black hair that fell over one eye and a jawline sharp enough to cut glass. His flannel shirt was rolled to the elbows, revealing forearms dusted with ink, tattoos I itched to trace. "Crowded as hell," he said, voice low and gravelly, like he'd smoked one too many Marlboros chasing dreams in some dive bar. The bus groaned back into motion, rattling over potholes, and the other passengers, huddled commuters with earbuds and blank stares, paid us no mind. But I minded. God, did I mind? "I'm Frank," he said, extending a hand that engulfed mine in a firm shake. His palm was calloused, the kind from real work, not the keyboard warrior bullshit I peddled. "You look like you could use a coffee. Or a stiff drink." I laughed, a rusty sound I barely recognized. "Samuel." And yeah, both. "But this is my stop in 5. He grinned, teeth flashing white against the stubble shadowing his chin. "Fate's a bitch. Tell you what, there's a spot 2 blocks from here. The Beanstalk. Best pour in the neighborhood. Let me buy you one to make up for the shoulder invasion." I should have said no. Should have mumbled something about deadlines and vanished into the crowd like every other anonymous soul in this city. But his eyes held mine, green flecked with gold, and in them I saw a mirror of my own quiet desperation, a guy who'd been kicked around by life but still showed up swinging. So I nodded, and when the bus doors hissed open at Addison, I followed him off into the chill, my pulse a drumbeat I couldn't ignore. The Beanstalk was one of those hole-in-the-wall joints, all exposed brick and mismatched stools, the air thick with espresso and the low hum of indie folk from a hidden speaker. Frank ordered 2 black coffees, strong enough to strip paint, and we claimed a corner table scarred with initials from lovers long gone. He talked easy, like we'd known each other forever, grew up in a steel mill town outside Pittsburgh, chased a football scholarship that fizzled into community college, ended up in Chicago hauling freight for a logistics firm. "Pays the bills," he shrugged. "But dreams? Those are for suckers who don't mind starving." I spilled 2, more than I meant to. The agency grind, how I'd majored in graphic design at UIUC dreaming of album covers for indie bands, not cereal boxes. How Tyler left me packing in a snowstorm. His parting shot, "You're too safe, Sam." Like a goddamn Hallmark card. Frank listened, really listened, his knee bumping mine under the table and staying there, a silent anchor. By the time our mugs were empty, the sky outside had bruised to dusk, and he was asking for my number with a sheepishness that twisted something deep in my chest. That night, as I lay in bed staring at the water stains on my ceiling, my phone buzzed. "Hey, it's Frank. Couldn't stop thinking about that laugh of yours. Lunch tomorrow?" I typed back yes before my brain could veto it. And just like that, the stranger from the bus became the spark in my carefully gray world. We met at a falafel truck near the river the next day, the air crisp with the promise of frost. Frank showed up in a leather jacket that hugged his shoulders just right, carrying a thermos of what he called real coffee to wash down the greasy goodness. Conversation flowed like the Chicago River at our feet, stories of botched tattoos. His was a botched Celtic knot from a drunken night in college. My failed attempt at stand-up open mics where the crowd heckle me offstage after one joke about Midwestern politeness. He laughed, head thrown back, and when his hand brushed mine reaching for a napkin, neither of us pulled away. By week 2, it was dates, not lunches. A walk through Millennium Park where he dared me to touch the bean at midnight. Our reflections warping into something surreal and shared. Stolen kisses in the shadow of the Picasso sculpture. His lips tasting of mint and possibility. Frank was out and proud. He'd said one night over beers at his place, a converted loft in Logan Square that smelled of pine cleaner and takeout Thai. Came out at 16, he admitted, tracing patterns on my thigh with his thumb. Dad walked out. Mom baked pies for the neighbors like it was a funeral. But screw him. Life's too short for closets. I envied that fire in him, the way he wore his scars like badges. Me, I nodded along, but inside, the lockbox rattled. My parents in Springfield, Dad the stoic accountant, Mom the church volunteer, still thought I was waiting for the right girl. My sister, Ellie, knew bits, enough to text passive-aggressive memes about finding yourself, but we drifted since I moved north. Frank didn't push, but I saw the questions in his eyes when I dodged weekend invites or changed the subject to work. Thanksgiving crept up like a thief, and with it, the first crack. Frank wanted me at his family's potluck in the suburbs, his mom, Rosa, with her killer empanadas, his brother Marco, a cop who ribbed him mercilessly, aunts and uncles who toasted his coming out with tequila shots. "Come on, Sam," he coaxed over pumpkin pie at a diner, his fork midway to his mouth. "They'll love you. You're the guy who quotes Vonnegut like it's baseball stats." My stomach nodded. "Family stuff back home," I lied, the words tasting like ash. "Ellie's got this thing, and Mom's expecting." It wasn't total bullshit. Mom had called that morning, her voice syrupy with passive guilt. "We miss you, Sammy. Your father's putting up the lights early this year." But it was the cowards out, and Frank's face fell, just a flicker, before he masked it with a grin. "No sweat. Rain check." He squeezed my hand under the table, but the warmth felt thinner, like fog rolling in off the lake. I spent the holiday in my apartment, nuking a frozen turkey dinner and binge-watching old episodes of The West Wing until the ache in my chest dulled to a hum. Frank texted updates. "Mom's asking about the mystery man. Told her you're allergic to gravy." I laughed, but it echoed hollow. By New Year's, though, we were solid again, fireworks over the river, his arms around me as Auld Lang Syne played from a distant speaker. "This year," he whispered, lips brushing my ear, "no more hiding. Promise." I promised, the lies slipping easy as champagne bubbles. What I didn't know, what I couldn't have known, was that Frank had shadows of his own, buried deeper than mine, waiting to claw their way out. Winter hit Chicago like a freight train, burying the city under feet of snow that turned the streets into slushy battlegrounds. Frank and I carved out our bubble, movie nights at the Music Box Theater, where he'd sneak his hand into mine during the quiet scenes, lazy Sundays at his loft, debating whether Springsteen or Dylan had the edge on heartbreak anthems. He was teaching me to loosen up, dragging me to a queer open mic at a bar in Boys Town, where I finally belted out a shaky rendition of Hallelujah to Wolf whistles and his proud grin from the front row. But the cracks spiderwebbed. One night in January, as we shoveled his walk after a blizzard, he got a call. His face went stone cold, the kind of mask that said not now. Work, he grunted, pocketing the phone. But I caught the name on the screen, Dad. Frank never talked about his father, beyond the walkout at 16. When I pressed later, over hot toddies by his radiator, he deflected with a kiss that tasted of whiskey and deflection. You're not the only one with baggage. Hayes, he said softly, pulling me close. But you're the only one I want to unpack it with. I'll let it go. Because God, those words were a lifeline. But doubt is a sneaky bastard, and it started whispering when I saw the texts. Late February, I swung by his loft unannounced with takeout from that Lebanese place he loved, shawarma wraps steaming in a bag. His door was ajar, and voices spilled out, Frank's, low and tense, and a woman's, sharp as broken glass. You think you can just waltz back in after what you did? After leaving us like we were nothing? Frank's reply was muffled, but the plea in it twisted my gut. I knocked, bag crinkling, and the voices cut off. He opened the door, flushed, eyes red-rimmed. Behind him, a woman in her 40s, dark hair pulled tight, face etched with lines that spoke of too many unpaid bills, glared daggers. Sam, Frank breathed, relief flooding his features. This is my aunt, Lena. Aunt Lena. Samuel. She sized me up, her gaze lingering on our joined hands before softening a fraction. The boyfriend, she said. Not a question. Heard about you. Rosa won't shut up. We ended up eating together. Awkward at first. The shawarma, a peace offering. Lena was Rosa's sister, in from Pittsburgh for a family summit. She didn't elaborate, but the way she watched Frank, like he might shatter, said volumes. As she left, she pulled me aside in the hall. He's tough, that one, but he's got a heart like glass. Don't break it. Her words haunted me on the L ride home, the train rattling through the dark. What had his dad done? Why the summit? Frank texted later, sorry for the drama. Old wounds. I replied, talk to me. But his response was a heart emoji and silence. March brought thaw, and with it, our first real fight. I'd finally mustered the guts to tell Ellie everything, over a stilted Zoom call where she cried, then hugged her laptop screen. I'm proud of you, Sammy. But Mom and Dad, they're from a different time. Emboldened, I planned to come out to my folks at Easter, inviting Frank along as a friend from work. He saw through it. Of course. A friend. He paced his kitchen, voice rising like the spring storm outside. Jesus. Sam. After all this, we're not some side hustle. If you're ashamed, I'm not. The words exploded out of me, raw and ragged. Rain lashed the windows, mirroring the tempest in my chest. It's them. Okay, Dad's at that Bible study group. The ones who quote Leviticus like it's the weather report. Mom will just pray it away. I need to ease in. Ease in. Frank stopped, hurt carving lines around his mouth. That's code for hiding. Again. I thought we were past this. We weren't. The argument spiraled, me accusing him of not understanding conservative roots, him firing back that I was using family as a crutch for my own fear. He stormed out into the downpour, jacket forgotten, and I stood there, fists clenched, the shawarma wrappers from weeks ago mocking me from the trash. Hours later, he returned, soaked, and silent, collapsing onto the couch. I wrapped him in a towel, our apologies unspoken but mended in the quiet press of bodies. But the seed was planted. Doubt festered. I started noticing things, the way Frank's phone buzzed at odd hours, how he'd step into the bedroom to take calls, his laughter tinny through the door. Once, I glimpsed a photo on his nightstand, a faded Polaroid of a younger him with a guy who looked like trouble, arms slung casual, grins wide. Who? I wondered, but asking felt like prying open Pandora's box. April bloomed with dogwoods and denial. We hit a queer film fest at the Gene Siskel, losing ourselves in docs about Stonewall and Moonlight, emerging buzzed on cheap wine and the electric hum of the crowd. Frank pulled me into an alley after, kissing me fierce against graffiti-tagged brick. "Love you, Sam," he murmured, the words a thunderclap in the night. I echoed them, meaning every syllable, but the lockbox creaked. Then came the bomb. Mid-May, I got a call from an unknown number. A woman's voice. Hesitant. "Is this Samuel?" "This is Rosa, Frank's mom. We need to talk." My blood ran cold. She met me at a cafe near her South Side bungalow, her hands twisting a napkin like a rosary. Over weak tea, she laid it bare. Frank's dad, Eddie, hadn't just walked out at 16. He'd been arrested, embezzlement from the mill, a scandal that tanked the family name. Frank, barely a teen, had testified against him in court, spilling secrets to save the house from foreclosure. "It broke him," Rosa whispered, eyes glistening. "He blames himself for Eddie going to prison. And now Eddie's out, parole last month, and he wants back in. Frank's been meeting him, trying to, I don't know, forgive or something." The pieces slammed together, the calls, the tension, Aunt Lena's warning. Frank wasn't hiding a lover. He was wrestling ghosts. Relief warred with fury. Why hadn't he told me? Trust was our foundation. Or so I'd thought. I confronted him that night at his loft, the air thick with takeout grease and unspoken accusations. "Rosa called," I said, voice steady as I could manage. "About your dad." His face drained of color, mug slipping from his hand to shatter on the tile. "She had no right." "No right?" "Frank, you're sneaking around, taking calls like it's the goddamn Cold War." I thought. My throat closed, the words I'd buried clawing up. I thought it was someone else. Another guy. The silence stretched, brittle as spring ice. Then he laughed, bitter and broken. "Another guy? Jesus. Sam. After everything, you didn't trust me," I shouted, the dam bursting. "I'm over here ripping my guts out to come out to my family. And you're what? Protecting me from your mess? Or just too ashamed to share?" "It's not shame," he advanced, eyes blazing. "It's poison. Sam, my dad's a liar who ruined us. And forgiving him, it's like admitting I need that wreckage. I didn't want it touching you. We tore into each other then. Words like shrapnel, my hypocrisy in hiding him from my folks, his stubborn pride in carrying it alone. He accused me of fragility. I called him a martyr. The fight peaked when I grabbed my jacket, storming for the door. Maybe we're just too broken for this. Sam, wait, his hand caught my arm. Desperate. But I yanked free, the slam of the door echoing like a gunshot. Summer scorched in, humid and unforgiving, mirroring the hell I'd made. No calls, no texts, just radio silence from Frank. And from me, too proud to break it. I threw myself into work, churning out ad mock-ups until my eyes burned. But every billboard mocked me, couples laughing in convertibles. Freedom I couldn't touch. Ellie called, sensing the fracture. "Fix it, Sammy. Love like that doesn't grow on trees." But how? Pride was a Midwestern staple, thicker than deep dish crust. Then, in early July, The universe intervened or kicked me while down. A mutual friend from the open mic, Jamie, texted, Frank's in the ER. Hit and run on Halstead. Not life-threatening, but come if you can. My heart seized. I raced across town, the L blurring into streaks of neon, prayers I'd long abandoned tumbling through my mind. The hospital smelled of bleach and despair, fluorescent lights buzzing like angry hornets. Jamie met me in the hall, her face drawn. Broken ribs, concussion. The cops think it was a drunk driver. But Frank, he's asking for you. I found him in a dim room, hooked to monitors that beeped steady. Bruises bloomed purple across his jaw, stitches marching like soldiers over his brow. His eyes, when they met mine, were a storm of relief and wreckage. You came. Always, I whispered, sinking into the chair, his hand finding mine like it belonged there. The story spilled, walking home from a bar, mine on our fight, when a car jumped the curb. No drunk driver, just a kid on a joyride, scared shitless. But in the haze of pain meds, Frank confessed deeper. His dad had shown up that week, drunk and demanding money. A scene that ended in shouts and a shove door. I was spiraling. Sam, push you away because I couldn't stand if he broke this too. Tears tracked down his temples. I wiped them, throat tight. I'm the one who broke it. Hiding you, assuming the worst. I love you, Frank. No more half measures. He pulled me close, wincing at the ribs. But the kiss was soft, a vow sealed in saline and regret. Forgive me, only if you forgive me first. We mended slow, like a city after riots, boarded windows replaced. Streets swept clean. I came out to my parents over a tense Easter brunch in Springfield. Frank at my side as the man I love. Dad's fork paused midair, face paling, but Mom reached across the table, her hand trembling on mine. We love you, Sammy. Always have. It wasn't parades and acceptance speeches, but it was real, Midwestern grit wrapped in awkward hugs and promises to try. Frank faced his dad too, not with forgiveness, but boundaries, a supervised coffee where he laid down lines in the sand. Eddie slunk back to Pittsburgh, tail between legs, but the weight lifted from Frank's shoulders, letting light in. I fall, as leaves turned the parks to fire. We stood on that same bus, the 151. Ironically, commuters oblivious as ever. Frank leaned into me, deliberate this time, his head on my shoulder. Déjà vu et murmure. I smiled, pressing a kiss to his temple. Best collision of my life. Life didn't turn fairy tale. My job went remote after a merger. Frank's freight routes got cut, forcing him into night shifts at a warehouse. We argued over dishes and whose turn it was to walk the dog we adopted, a scruffy mutt named Vonnegut. But in the quiet moments, like sunset benches by the lake where his head rested easy on my shoulder, hands laced loose, I knew we'd built something unbreakable. Not perfect, Chicago winters still sucked, and family dinners carried undercurrents, but human. Messy, profound, ours. And in a city of millions, that stranger's lean became the story we told, the one that stunned us both into living true. The autumn after the accident painted Chicago in hues of amber and rust, a fleeting beauty before the inevitable freeze. Frank and I settled into a rhythm that felt less like survival and more like grace. Mornings tangled in his loft's too-small bed, Vonnegut snoring at our feet, evenings where I'd sketch while he strummed an old acoustic, his voice gravelly on Dylan covers that made my chest ache with how right it all was. But peace, I've learned, is a jealous lover. It demands vigilance. And we weren't watching close enough. It started small, the way these things do, a missed call here, A vague text there. Frank's shifts at the warehouse stretched longer. Inventory crunch, he'd say, collapsing home at dawn with shadows under his eyes. I'd wake to his side of the bed cold, brew coffee strong enough to wake the dead, and wait. When he finally dragged in, I'd pull him close, murmuring nonsense about quitting to freelance full-time, us road-tripping to Nashville for a songwriter's retreat. He'd laugh, bury his face in my neck, but the hugs felt tighter, like he was holding on for dear life. One crisp November Saturday, as Vonnegut chased squirrels in Humboldt Park, I broached it. "Talk to me, babe. You've been a ghost." He tossed the frisbee, watching it arc before answering. "Just work. Boss is riding us hard. Union talks heating up. Nothing I can't handle." But his jaw ticked. That telltale muscle I'd learned to read like Braille. I let it slide, because pushing felt like tempting fate, and we'd danced that edge before. Instead, we loaded up on cider and donuts from a food truck, sprawling on a blanket amid the crunch of leaves. He leaned against me then, head on my shoulder, the park alive with joggers and families oblivious to our quiet world. "Remember our first park date?" he murmured, fingers tracing mine. "You spilled mustard on your shirt and tried to play it cool." I chuckled, the memory warm as the cider. "You bought me a new one from that tourist trap. $50 for a bear's tea. Worth every penny." His kiss was lazy. Sunlight dappled, and for a moment, the shadows lifted. But shadows creep. By December, the lies grew teeth. I found the first one folded in his jacket pocket, a receipt from a motel on the edge of town, dated a week prior. "Room for one. Overtime crash pad," he explained when I asked, casual as handing over keys. Cheaper than Ubers at 3 a.m. It made sense on paper, but my gut twisted. Old insecurities whispering another guy, the photo on the nightstand, the calls you ignored. I swallowed it down. Baked gingerbread like Mom taught me. Strung lights around the loft until it glowed like a holiday card. Frank came alive then, helping Vonnegut wear a ridiculous antler headband, belting jingle bells off-key while we trimmed a Charlie Brown tree. Christmas Eve, we hosted a small thing, Jamie and her girlfriend, Rosa with her famous tamales, even Ellie flying in for a whirlwind weekend. Laughter filled the space. Toasts to new beginnings, and as Frank's arm snaked around my waist, pulling me into the kitchen for a stolen kiss amid the chaos. I thought, this is it. We've won. New Year's brought resolutions and revelations. Frank proposed we move in officially, my lease ending. His loft too cramped for two. "Make it ours," he said over black-eyed peas and cornbread. A southern nod from his aunt's recipes. I said yes. Visions of merged closets and shared grocery lists dancing in my head. But January hit with a vengeance. Blizzards that shut down the L. My freelance gigs drying up as clients ghosted. Frank's hours ballooning to 60 a week. That's when the second lie surfaced. Late one night, insomnia chasing me to the living room. I scrolled his phone wrong. I know. A violation born of desperation. The texts were innocuous at first. Warehouse updates from a group chat. Memes from Marco. Then, buried in deleted threads. A number labeled, "Hey, missed you last night. Same time tomorrow? Don't make me beg." My vision tunneled. Heart a jackhammer. E for Eddie? Or someone else? I deleted the thread before he woke. Shame burning hot. But the poison spread. Days blurred into accusations unspoken. I'd snap at small things. Like his forgotten laundry, he'd withdraw further, coming home reeking of cheap beer and excuses. The blow came in February. Valentine's Day of all ironies. I'd planned low-key, reservations at that Italian spot in the Loop. A sketch of us under the bean as a gift. But he texted at noon, stuck at work. Rain check. Love you. I went anyway, solo at a candlelit table, nursing Chianti until the waiter pitted me with free tiramisu. Home by 10. The loft dark. I found him on the couch, head in hands, Vonnegut whining at his feet. Where the hell were you? The words escaped before reason could collar them. He looked up, eyes bloodshot. Inventory. Told you. Bullshit. I flung the sketch onto the coffee table. Paper crumpling. I saw the text. Frank. Whoever that is. Motel receipts. Late nights. If you're seeing someone. His face crumpled, then hardened. You went through my phone, guilt stabbed, but fury overrode. You left it open, and yeah, because I've been living with a stranger for months. He surged up, ribs long healed but temper flaring. E is Elena from the union. We're negotiating. Sam. Late meetings. Crash pads when it's safer than driving tired. God, you think I'd cheat? After everything. The fight ignited like dry tinder. Me hurling Tyler's ghost. How trust was a one-way street. Him roaring about my paranoia. The closet I'd half stepped out of. You're still hiding, he yelled. Voice cracking. From your folks. From me, hell. From yourself. I can't keep proving I'm here if you won't believe it. I grabbed my keys, storming into the sleet-slick night. The doors slam, a punctuation to our unraveling. The streets of Logan Square blurred through tears. Payphone impulses warring with pride. I crashed at Jamie's. Her couch a lumpy confessor as I spilled the mess. Sounds like fear talking, she said over herbal tea, her hand on my shoulder. Both of you. But love? It doesn't survive on assumptions. Don found me outside his door, knuckles raw from knocking. He opened shirtless, hair wild, hope and hurt warring in his eyes. Sam, I'm sorry. The words tumbled. Raw. For doubting. For snooping. I just lost you. And it terrified me. He pulled me in, the hug fierce despite the chill seeping from my coat. Me too. Elena's just a friend, union rep. Tough as nails, but nothing more. And the secrets? I was protecting the deal, not hiding a lover. But no more. We're in this. Or we're not. We chose in. Spring unpacked us slow. Therapy sessions at a queer center in Uptown, where a soft-spoken counselor named Raj unpacked my abandonment wounds and Frank's paternal scars. Dates turned deliberate, picnics by the lake, where he'd read poetry aloud, his voice weaving magic over the waves. Vonnegut got a sibling, a rescue cat named Siskel who tolerated our sappiness with arch disdain. But betrayal, once tasted, lingers like bad coffee. In June, as heat waves baked the city, Eddie's shadow returned. A letter arrived, forwarded from Rosa. Son, I know I messed up. One chance to make it right. Meet me, neutral ground. Frank stared at it over breakfast, cereal soggy in his bowl. Burn it, I said. Simple as that. He didn't. Instead, he went to a park in Indiana, border straddling to keep distance. I waited, pacing the loft, phone silent. Hours later, he returned, face a mask, but his eyes alive with something fierce. Told him off. No money, no forgiveness, just goodbye. For good. Pride swelled, mixed with ache for the boy he'd been. That night, we made love, not the frantic reclaiming of early days, but slow, reverent, bodies mapping forgiveness. Afterward, tangled in sheets, he whispered, You're my family now. Sam, the one I choose. Summer peaked in glory, a road trip to the Badlands, where we hiked crimson trails. Vonnegut boarded with Rosa, Siskel reigning over the loft like a tiny pharaoh. Starlit nights in a tent, his head on my shoulder as coyotes yipped, felt like absolution. Back in Chicago, I landed a gig designing for a queer lit mag, covers that sang of hidden loves and bold truths. Frank's union won concessions, shorter shifts meaning more us. Yet, as leaves hinted at turning again, a new storm brewed, not from within, but without. Ellie's wedding loomed in October, a Springfield affair with Dad officiating, Mom's floral centerpieces, and a guest list thick with church folks. Bring Frank, she urged over wine during her visit. Show him we're progressive. I hesitated, the old lockbox rattling. It's not that simple. You know, Dad. Try. Sammy. For you. Frank. Bless him. Didn't push. Your call. I'm there if you want backup. I wanted. God. I wanted him at my side. Hand in mine down the aisle. But fear is a Midwestern river, deep, murky, prone to floods. The rehearsal dinner became ground zero, toasts to eternal love. Dad's prayer invoking traditional unions, eyes sliding to me with unspoken questions. Frank sat beside me, thumb stroking my palm under the table, his presence a shield. Then, the after-party at a VFW hall, beer flowing, aunts cornering me with Sammy, seeing anyone special. I froze, pint midway to lips. Frank squeezed my knee, your pace, but the dam cracked. Yeah, I said, voice steady. Frank. He's. Everything. Silence rippled. Then questions tumbled, polite probes masking judgment. Dad pulled me aside later, face stern under the fluorescent bus. Son, this life's hard enough without complications. Think of your mother. Complications. Fury ignited. Hot and holy. Dad, this is me. Loving him isn't a phase. It's my truth. If you can't see that, he deflated. Hand on my shoulder, awkward, but there. I love you. Boy. Always will. Just. Give us time. It wasn't acceptance, but a door cracked, enough light to breathe. Frank waited outside, leaning on his truck, grin splitting wide when I recounted it. Proud of you. Hayes. We drove home under harvest moon, his hand on my thigh, radio crooning Springsteen. Thunder Road hit, and he sang along, off-key and perfect, the city lights blurring into promise. October waned, and with it, our bubble tested once more. A call from Marco. Eddie, drunk and desperate, had shown at Rose's door, ranting about ungrateful sons. Cops hauled him off, but the fallout hit Frank hard, nights where he'd wake gasping, dreams of courtroom echoes. I held him then, whispering you're safe. We're safe. Until dawn painted the blinds. By Thanksgiving, we'd woven a new tapestry, potluck at Rose's. My folks invited tentative. Awkward? Hell yes. Dad and Eddie's stories skirted like landmines. Mom and Rosa bonding over pie recipes despite the gulf. But laughter bridged it. Vonnegut stealing turkey. Siskel batting ornaments like tiny foes. Frank caught my eye across the table, mouthing love you. And in that gaze, I saw our future, not flawless, but forged. Winter whispered in, but this time, we faced it arm in arm. The bus rides home. His Lena habit now. Reminded me, stunners come in collisions. But staying? That's the real story. Winter 2026 clamped down on Chicago with the ferocity of an old grudge. Snowdrifts piling like unpaid debts against our building. Frank and I had merged lives fully by then, my easel squeezed into his loft's corner. Our bookshelves a chaotic alphabet of Vonnegut and Baldwin, Dylan bootlegs and design tomes. Morning started with coffee shared over the sink, his kiss tasting of grounds and sleep, Vonnegut underfoot begging for scraps. It was domestic bliss, the kind that sneaks up and fools you into thinking you've tamed the chaos. But chaos laughs at domestics. January brought layoffs at the warehouse, automation chewing through jobs like termites. Frank came home hollow-eyed. Layoff notice crumpled in his fist. They said restructuring, he spat, pacing the kitchen. Bullshit. It's robots now. Sam, what the hell do I do? We hunkered down, his resume polished on my laptop. Interviews chased like errant buses. Nights, he'd strum guitar to drown the worry. Melodies turning maudlin. I'd sketch him then. Charcoal smudging my fingers. His profile etched against the radiator's glow. Jaw set, but eyes distant. You're a fighter, I'd say, pressing the drawing into his hands. This city's tough, but so are you. He'd pull me close, murmur thanks into my hair, but the strain showed in small fractures, snapped tempers over forgotten errands. Silence is heavy as the snow outside. I picked up extra freelance, posters for pride events, logos for startups, nights blurring into dawn. My eyes gritty. Ellie checked in weekly, her new married glow a reminder of normalcy we chased. Hang in there, she'd say. Love's the best safety net. February thawed the literal ice, but not our chill. Frank landed a gig, bartending at a dive in Wrigleyville, slinging beers to rowdy fans. Temporary, he insisted, but the late nights revived ghosts. Text from Elena about networking, his laugh carrying home laced with cigarette smoke. Trust, that fragile bird, fluttered wary. One stormy Tuesday, as sleet pelted the windows, I waited up, takeout cold on the counter. He stumbled in at 2, reeking of hops and something floral. Perfume. My stomach dropped. Rough crowd, I asked, casual as I could. He shrugged off his coat, avoiding my eyes. Cubs lost. Tips suck, but the hug he gave felt obligatory. His body tense. The doubt crested that weekend. Rosa hosted a family game night, dominoes and arroz con pollo. Marco trash-talking over cards. Frank was off, distracted, checking his phone under the table. When Rosa ribbed him, he snapped. Just work? Ma, sharp enough to silence the room. Driving home, tension thick as fog. I cracked. What's going on? Frank? Really? He gripped the wheel, knuckles white. Nothing. Stress. Bull. You're pulling away again. Like with Eddie. That hit low. Don't, he growled. This isn't that. Then what? Because it feels like betrayal all over. He pulled over abrupt. Engine ticking in a cold. Betrayal? Jesus. Sam. I'm hustling to keep us afloat. And you accuse me. I'm scared. The admission burst. Raw. Of losing you to this city. To whatever's eating you. Silence stretched. Then he deflated. It's Elena. Not like that. She's got a lead on a union job in Milwaukee. Better pay. Stability. But it'd mean leaving Chicago. Leaving. Us. If you're not ready to uproot. Milwaukee. An hour west. But a world away. My gig's tied to the city. Family threads fraying, but present. Why didn't you say? Didn't want to burden you. Thought I could fix it solo. We sat there, wipers slapping sleet, until he reached for my hand. Talk to me. For real. We did. Words pouring like the rain. My fear of stagnation. His dread of failure. By home, we'd tabled Milwaukee, for now, sealing it with a kiss that tasted of olive branches. Spring 2026 bloomed tentative. Cherry blossoms defiant against late frosts. Frank's bartending steadied us. Tips funding a weekend getaway to Door County, cabins by the bay, where we kayaked misty mornings and hiked bluffs at dusk. One evening, as sun dipped into Lake Michigan. He dropped to one knee on a pebble beach, ring glinting simple silver. Marry me, Sam, not for papers or picnics, for the mess. The music, all of it, tears blurred the yes. Our embrace fierce against the waves. News spread. Rosa hooped over FaceTime. Ellie planned a joint bachelorette in Springfield, booze and bad karaoke. Even Dad sent a gruff congratulations. Son. Proud. It felt like Summit conquered. But summits have shadows. Wedding planning unearthed landmines. Venue hunts where homophobic clerks sneered. My aunt's email. Praying for guidance, laced with scripture quotes. Frank brushed it off, their loss, but I seethed. Nights journaling fury until pages tore. Then, May's High came crashing. A package arrived, anonymous. Postmarked Pittsburgh. Inside, photos. Grainy but damning. Frank, younger, arm around that nightstand guy from a Polaroid. Lips close in what looked like a motel room. Clip note, tell your fiancé about Alex. Before it's too late. My world tilted. Alex, who? I confronted Frank that night. Photos splayed on the table like evidence in a trial. His face ashed. Sam, listen, who the hell is he? Voice cracked. Betrayal and knife twist. He sank into a chair. Head and hands. College. Summer fling. It ended bad. He was volatile. Possessive. Stalked me after. Sent shit like this to scare. I changed numbers. Moved cities. Thought it was buried. But it's not. Photos trembled in my grip. And you never told me? Didn't want to drag you in my trash heap. Alex is ancient history. Married now. Straight passing midlife crisis or something. This, someone's grudge. Doubt warred with love. Is it Eddie? Stirring shit. Frank nodded grim. Called Rosa today. He heard about the wedding. Flipped. Probably his doing. Rage boiled for Eddie. For Alex's ghost. For the world that weaponized our joy. We reported it. Cops sympathetic, but slow. Marco pulled strings for a restraining order. Nights. Frank held me as I raged. His whispers, I'm yours. Only yours, a mantra against the storm. June sweltered. Wedding inching closer. We doubled down. Invitations with pride flags, subtle. Vows drafted, tear-streaked. A bachelor party at the Beanstalk, our origin spot, turned cathartic. Jamie toasting to collisions that stick. Frank's eyes met mine across the foam. Love a beacon. But the climax brewed unseen. Wedding week. Springfield transformed. Tents in the backyard. Mom's roses blooming defiant. Rehearsal dinner hummed. Ellie radiant. Dad toasting with a nod to chosen families. Frank charmed. But tension hummed. My aunt's icy stare chill. The day dawned golden. October sun gilding the leaves. I paced in a suit tailored sharp. Nerves electric. Vows exchanged under a floral arch. Frank's voice steady. You stunned me that day on the bus. Sam. And every day since. You've been my steady. Mine cracked on I do. Rings exchanged to cheers and a few sniffles. Even Dad's eyes misted. Reception swirled. Cake cut. Dances swaying to Motown. Frank pulled me onto the floor for our first as husbands. World narrowing to his warmth. The band's croon. Forever, he breathed. Then, chaos cracked the idol. A commotion at the gate, shouts. Marco barreling through. Eddie, he barked. Face thunder. Try to crash. Cops got him. My blood iced. Frank went rigid beside me. Dear, now, worse, trailing Eddie. Handcuffed but smirking. Was Alex older? Paunchy. Eyes wild with old venom. Heard you were tying the knot. Alex slurred to Frank. Cops hauling him back. Thought you'd want a +1 from your past. The party fractured. Guests murmuring. Mom herding kids inside. Dad's face a storm. Frank vanished. Marco following. I found him in the garage. Fists bloody against a beam. Sobs wrenching. It's over, he gasped when I wrapped him tight. They can't touch us anymore. But they had, splintering the day. Dredging poison. Cops carted both off. Eddie for violation. Alex for aiding. Statements given. Tears shed. The reception limped on. Brave faces masking hurt. But joy tainted. That night, hotel room heavy with silence. We curled together. Ruined, I whispered. No, Frank countered. Fierce. Tested. And we passed. The wedding's wreckage lingered like smoke after a fire, acrid, clinging, but eventually fading to ash you sweep away. November 2026 found Frank and me back in Chicago. Honeymoon postponed to heal the raw edges. We holed up in the loft. Vonnegut and Siskel are silent sentinels. Takeout containers piling as we processed. Therapy ramped up. Raj's office a confessional where I unpacked the violation. Frank the lifelong echo of abandonment. You're both survivors, Raj said one gray afternoon. Steam rising from our mugs. But marriage? It's choosing to rebuild. Brick by scarred brick. We did. Eddie faced charges, harassment piled on parole violation, sentenced to 18 months. No contact. Alex slunk back to obscurity, his marriage imploding per Marco's cop gossip. Rosa visited weekly, her hugs fierce. Tamales a balm. Mi hijo shidese, cupping Frank's face. You deserve peace. My folks, to their credit, stepped up. Dad drove up unannounced one weekend, toolbox in hand, fixing our leaky faucet while gruffly admitting, should have had you back sooner. Son, Mom followed with care packages, cookies, books on modern families, her way of bridging. Ellie, ever the mediator, organized a post-wedding brunch, toasts laced with to resilience. Frank's job hunt bore fruit. A logistics coordinator role downtown. Union-backed. Steady hours that let him home by 6. I expanded my freelance into a small studio, queer-owned, focusing on stories like ours. Our first client? A doc on Midwestern coming-outs. My posters framing faces fierce and tender. Winter deepened, but warmth bloomed within. We rescheduled the honeymoon for Door County. February's chill chased by fireside cocoa and long walks where snow crunched underfoot. One night, stars pricking the black. Frank stopped on a bridge over the frozen bay. Remember the beach proposal? He asked, breath fogging. Hard to forget, I teased, leaning into him. He turned. I serious. That day, our wedding, it hurt. But it clarified. You're not just my husband, you're my why. The kiss that followed melted more than snow, defrosting the last frostbite of doubt. Back home, we hosted a vow renewal of sorts. Just us. Rosa officiating in the loft. Rings re-exchanged over pizza and Pinot. To the stunned and the stunning, she pronounced. Tears carving tracks. Spring 2027 unfurled gentle. Tulips nodding in Grant Park as we volunteered at Pride Prep, booths erected, banners strung. Frank manned a resource table, chatting folks through closets with his easy grin. I designed the parade route map, paths weaving like our story. The march itself was electric, rainbows rioting against blue skies, chants echoing off skyscrapers. Hand in hand, we marched, Vonnegut in a tiny vest, Ellie waving from the sidelines with her husband, a sign proclaiming husbands since bus 151. But stories don't end tidy, they ripple. Summer brought a curveball, Frank's fertility itch, broached over backyard beers at Rose's. Kids, he said tentative, watching fireflies. Not now, but Someday, with you. I paused. The idea blooming foreign but fertile. Adoption whispers followed, foster seminars, home studies that probed our scars like surgeons. Not easy. Agencies eyed our non-traditional status wary. But we persisted, hearts open to the broken ones waiting. Fall painted us gold again. Anniversary marked with a bus ride, deliberate, looping Clark Street to our old stops. He leaned on me at the first jolt, murmuring, "Best decision ever." "Mine too," I replied, the city scrolling by like chapters closed and opening. Yet, the deepest conflict brewed internal, a climax I'd ignored too long. December, as lights twinkled festive. A doctor's visit for me, routine check turning urgent, early lymphoma, caught via fluke blood draw. Stage 1, treatable, but the word cancer landed like Eddie's crash, shattering our rebuilt world. Frank's face in the oncologist's office, pale, hand crushing mine, mirrored my wedding day terror. "We'll fight," he vowed, voice steel. Together, chemo started January 2028. A gauntlet of nausea and needles. Frank my rock, soup's pureed gentle. Laughter coaxed from fog. Rosa prayed rosaries. Mom sent audiobooks of my childhood favorites. Dad mowed our lawn, fire escape pots, weekly. Ellie flew in, bunking on our couch. Her presence a sisterly anchor. The nadir hit mid-treatment, hair shedding. Mirror stranger, doubts howling. One rain-lashed night, as Frank bathed me tender, I broke. "What if I don't make it? You deserve whole." "Not this." He cupped my face, water dripping. "You're whole to me, Sam. Always. And we're not done. Stunners like us, we endure." Remission came April. Scans clean as spring rain. Celebration was quiet. A park bench at sunset. His head on my shoulder, hands laced. Vonnegut chased shadows. Siskel waited home with judgmental purrs. To more collisions, Frank toasted with thermos coffee. Life post-remission stretched luminous. We fostered our first kid, a wary 7-year-old named Theo, all elbows and guarded eyes. Placed after a year. His adoption day, courthouse simple, felt sacred, vows renewed in legalese. Family swelling with Marco's bear hugs. Rosa's feast. Years layered. Theo's soccer games where Frank coached Rowdy. My studio thriving with books on resilience. Ellie's twins arrived. Aunt Uncle Judy's gleeful. Dad softened full, quoting not Leviticus but Cat's Cradle at dinners. By 2030, gray threaded our hair. Lines etched laugh deep. We rode that bus still. Retirees now. Frank's lean a ritual. Stunned yet, he'd quip. "Every damn day," I'd reply. The city our witness. Our story? No tidy bow, betrayals mended. Cancers conquered. Secrets aired like laundry. But in the leaning, the choosing, we found humanism's heart. Love, not as fairy tale, but forge, hammering hurt to hope, leaving us, if not unbroken, beautifully bent.